Back with us on the SportsMax Zone, the man whose claims of racial abuse and institutional racism have rocked Yorkshire Cricket Club and English cricket broadly, Azim Rafiq, today gave tear-jerking testimony to the Digital, Culture, Media and Sport Committee of the UK Parliament. The 30-year-old Rafiq, a Muslim of Pakistani heritage, told the committee about an incident that happened when he was still a teenager.
First instance of drinking, I actually got pinned down at my local cricket club, and red wine got poured down my throat.
How old were you?
15.
15, you're a Muslim, 15.
15-year-old, I got literally down my throat. The player played for Yorkshire, played for Hampshire, and yeah, it was quite an experience. I didn't touch alcohol till about around 2012, and around that time I felt like I had to do that to fit in.
Right, stick a pin. Let's discuss something right here. So, when he made the allegations, part of the narrative from among those he accused and those affiliates of the accused was that, look, he can't talk about wine being thrown down his throat because he's an alcoholic. But he was saying that, well, the wine was forcibly poured down my throat when I was 15 and a practicing Muslim.
Yes.
It was later in life when the mountain of abuse got too much for me to carry on these shoulders that I turned to alcohol as a route to escape the pressure I was feeling. Yeah?
Yeah, and I think he sent that message across pretty firmly today.
All right. Rafiq went on to reveal that the white players in the Yorkshire dressing room had a particular name, listen to this one, for their black and brown teammates.
Kevin was something Gary used to describe everyone of colour in a very derogatory manner, whether that be publicly, whether that be within the dressing room, whether that be opposition. This is an open secret within the England dressing room. This is, anyone that's come across Gary would know that that's a phrase he used to describe people of colour. It was used in a derogatory manner all the time.
So you're saying there that effectively in the England dressing room they used the name Kevin to signify people of Afro-Caribbean origin, is that correct?
Anyone of colour.
Anyone of colour?
Anyone of colour.
And is it true that there is an England cricketer as well named as Black Dog, Kevin, as an in-joke?
Yeah, that is true, because Gary and Alex Hales at the time got really close to each other when they played for England together, and that's my understanding. Obviously I wasn't present in that dressing room, but that's what I understand, that Alex went on to name his dog Kevin because it was black.
Right, so you heard there him talking about the use of the name Kevin for any non-white player. Now the fact is, Alex Hales, the man who is accused of being one of those to use the descriptor Kevin for non-white players, there's an Instagram post of him with his dog. Now his dog, mostly black, the legs and the belly brown. And he's tagged in the Instagram post, like he's saying, chilling out with my only best friend, Kevin. So it's true that his dog is called Kevin.
Yes.
The dog is black. You call black and brown players Kevin. I have a black dog. Oh, I shall name it Kevin. I found that this morning watching the thing, Lance, to be objectionable. He spoke for about 2 hours. I think I watched every minute of it. Yeah, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The fact is that Gary Balance, the player he referred to as Gary in the excerpt just
went
now,
on to be the coach.
Went on to be the so Gary Balance played for Yorkshire, played for England, of course. He and Alex Hales were depicted today as being foremost among the white players who would racially abuse the non-white players in the Yorkshire dressing room. And you heard him say that the Kevin term. No, Cheteshwar Pujara, the Indian batsman, was also referred to as Kevin because they said they didn't bother wanting to learn his name. And when someone deems you to be insignificant, non-important, and almost like a non-person, we call you whatever and we move on.
Yeah.
No, I want to ask you something. Is it really that we should see the use of Kevin for black and brown players as a racist term and have a problem with it, Lance? Because in the Chelsea dressing room in the English Premier League, when Cesar Azpilicueta came over from Spain and, of course, footballers aren't usually cerebral types. They aren't you. You're well-spoken and well-read. They just apply a name and move on. So the joke goes, well, it's true, but it was a joke. When Cesar Azpilicueta came into that dressing room first, the Chelsea boys had a difficulty pronouncing his name. And one of the senior players, it may have been the captain, John Terry, said, Cesar, what? Your name is Dave. And they moved on. But, well, I have a view, but what say you? The application of Dave to a Spaniard, a white Spaniard, is it the same as application of Kevin
I want to suggest, though, in the context of this particular story, and given all of what happened around this.
And the dog.
And the Kevin to black and brown, I would look at it a little bit differently.
And I would also look at it a bit differently because Cesar Azpilicueta is a white man.
That's true.
So a white man making fun of a white man's name is not the same as a white man choosing not to learn a black or brown man's name and giving him a name that he gives to all of them.
Yeah, you use the word now, George, which I think is a perfect word, objectionable. And I think when he spoke today, you said something about, the truth. I don't think, given what we saw today, and I go beyond that, given what we've seen over the past 2 weeks, I don't think there are many disbelievers in this story.
No.
I think it is a matter of the entire story and the magnitude of it being uncovered. And I don't think anyone, I know Michael Vaughan continues to say that he wasn't guilty.
And I don't believe him the more days go by.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I think Rafiq is becoming more and more believable every day.
Yeah.
And exactly the extent to which the problem had mushroomed and become such a toxic issue was magnified today in his emotion and his truth.
Yeah.
The way he delivered his story today. There's no listening to him today, there's no reason why you would disbelieve what he said. I don't think there was any embellishing. It was an outpouring of what has been eating him up for so many years, initially to deaf ears.
Yeah. At one point, and we're going to get to Tino Best shortly, Mr. Producer, fret not. At one point, the chairman of the proceedings asked, not Rafiq, but somebody else from the Yorkshire Cricket Club, if the leaders of Yorkshire who had turned down the invitation to speak to the committee, if they were cowards. And like you're taught to in that kind of communication, rather than answer that question, you turn it around and said, well, that's a question best answered by the men who chose not to come here. But here's where I'm going with the point.
I think that may have been John Hutton,
the
CEO.
Yes, the new one.
Yes.
So here's the thing. Rafiq said, and this got me, Rafiq said, look, my child was stillborn. I had to go and bury my son, stillborn. The club never gave me any support. And he says after he took the time to go and bury his son, the then head of Yorkshire called him and ripped him to shreds behind closed doors. Yeah? Over being absent for what? And he said, but wait, I've seen white players have family tragedies. I've seen white players have family tragedies. And the club has supported them.
Yes.
Why is it that my child has died and my wife is distraught and I'm distraught and I've seen to the burying of my child and you're treating me in this way? Why? Is it because I'm not white?
Terrible story.
Oh my goodness. Well, at least one former English cricketer reached out to Rafiq and apologized for his actions. It's important to note that back in 2020, the former West Indies and Barbados fast bowler Tino Best provided evidence to support Rafiq's claims. Tino spent the summer of 2010 with Yorkshire, and Tino has spoken out that he was made to feel as if he was a lesser than the white players. Even the umpires made him feel that way when he was on the field. This is a chicken or a flock of chickens that have come home to roost, and you know what happens when chickens roost, Lance. Yeah, the droppings now are falling on Yorkshire's head.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's a heartbreaking story, a really heartbreaking story. in the middle of that, we're getting a report that the Jamaicans have equalized through Mikel Antonio.
Yes.
So it's 1-1 now between Jamaica and the USA. But this Yorkshire story is going deep. It was headlining all of the BBC stories earlier on today, George. And I saw stories as well from the Essex Cricket Club County, where at least 2 players, one of them a Jamaica-born Maurice Chambers, came out to unearth stories of similar racial issues that they had to undergo and they were subjected to. And this is a story that is gathering, is finding legs, George. I think it's the momentum of this story will take us to some levels that will make a lot of these clubs look really bad.
I say this as we break. This story was so important. You spoke of the media houses covering it. On the BBC World Service this morning, World Service, they had his testimony live on the channel. Usually this is one of the terrestrial, the local BBC channels that cover this. And this is sport. And BBC World Service was carrying the man's testimony live because it was so important. We take a break, we come right back.